the Venom symbiote might give a whole new meaning to the term Mad Max. It was reported yesterday that Zombieland director Ruben Fleischer will helm the Spider-Man villain spin-off Venom for Sony Pictures. Described as a horror science fiction movie, it will follow the journey of Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy. It's set for release on October 5th, 2018, with production stated to be starting within the fall. Now, Venom is arguably one of the biggest villains in Spider-Man lore. A lot of people think that he's his arch enemy. A lot of people love the comics that he has, and a lot of people love his relationship with Spider-Man and what leads to the creation of fellow Spider-Man villain Carnage. Now, my feelings on Venom as a character, and partly Carnage with this as well, I think that Venom and Carnage work better as each other's villains more so than they work as Spider-Man villains. Now, let me explain here. Venom and Carnage are extremely dark, twisted characters that I'm pretty sure that Marvel and Disney do not want anywhere near the MCU. So I'm actually okay with this movie being a solo thing. You can go R-rated and you can make this a really scary, character-driven horror film with this alien symbiote. By having him in a Disney movie or connected to the Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't think that would work. That would be like neutering the character, and then we get Spider-Man 3 all over again. For now, this doesn't need to be connected to Spider-Man Homecoming. Let that go be its own thing. I want to compare this to a movie that recently came out, and that's Logan. Logan is a great movie. It's an emotional, character-driven story that's R-rated and pushes the boundaries. Why can't Venom be considered the same thing? You already have a great director, Ruben Fleischer. Zombieland is probably one of the most rewatchable movies of the modern era. With Tom Hardy reportedly being such a big Venom fan and a great actor, we could be in for something special. I mean, he definitely looks like Eddie Brock from the comics. Eddie Brock is a journalist that was screwed over by partly himself and partly due to Spider-Man, and he's this man who is consumed by bitter hatred and just vengeance. Already there, you have a very interesting character that you can work with. This was even done in the Truth in Journalism short film directed by Adi Shankar, which starred Ryan Quanten as Eddie Brock. There was no Venom in this, but they focused on the character of Eddie Brock and showing how tough it was in the mainstream media industry, so already you've got an interesting layer there. What if in this movie we show this damaged soul who has just been so screwed over in his life, he's maybe constantly getting into bar fights, he can't pay his rent, and he makes up for it by becoming this lethal protector after being engaged with a symbiote. I think for this movie to work, you need to keep Spider-Man far away from it. Make Venom interesting. Make the symbiote interesting. Make a really great character-driven R-rated story, and I think that will be able to get Venom fans very excited, because with this movie related to come out next year, you don't have time to build all that stuff with Spider-Man and the symbiote. Spider-Man Homecoming is only coming out next month. They don't have time to do that. So what I propose that they do is skip the Spider-Man connection entirely. Have the symbiote show up, have Eddie Brock get the power of the symbiote, and that makes him feel better for a while. He begins using this as like a way of maybe like a coping mechanism. That could be a really great metaphor on, say, like a drug addiction or like an addiction to substances and everything like that, but also show that this power is too much for him to handle and he has to learn how to control it. I think with that, you could have a very interesting story about this guy, Eddie Brock, and don't want another Spider-Man 3 situation. The problem with Spider-Man 3 was that because of all the stuff going on in it, you didn't have time to make Eddie Brock interesting. He just came off as a very whiny character that got killed off way too soon and was wasted, and for that reason, the name Venom has always been tainted when it comes to adaptations. With every good character-driven superhero story like this, you need to have a great villain, and I think this is the kind of movie where you can bring in Carnage and make it work. Now, a bit of history with Carnage. He's a serial killer who is shown to have no compassion. that gets a part of the symbiote and becomes this new symbiotic character that Spider-Man cannot defeat on his own and has to team up with Venom to defeat him. But the thing with Carnage for me has always been he also doesn't really work as a Spider-Man villain. Spider-Man's villains to me are regular people, often do stuff that's just like crimes. You know, they're just regular street criminals. And when you have someone like Carnage in there, I don't think he really works with the Spider-Man lore as much. But you pair him up with Venom, and you instantly have two sides of the same coin fighting each other. One using the power of this dark symbiote for a form of like an anti-hero good, and one who's using it to create chaos. Now, Carnage in the comics can be seen as rather one note. What you can do with him is take the idea of Carnage and expand upon it to make it an interesting character. There's no reason in this movie that Carnage could not be like the John Doe, say, of this movie, or like a Hannibal Lecter. And that's another reason I don't think Venom and Carnage should be anywhere near the MCU. Let them exist on their own. Go for it and do the ultimate Venom versus Carnage movie. And for that, you also need a great actor to play Carnage. And I've got a couple of choices, but my main one, which I think could definitely work alongside Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson has this ability to be also charming and menacing at the same time, and still can flesh out characters on a page and make them become something new. He's even got the kind of look that you'd expect from someone like Cletus Cassidy. You just need to add some red hair, give him this really menacing look, and then I think you could be on for something. Now, imagine this. I'm going to give you a little mini pitch here to what this Venom movie could be like, and I'm throwing the Spider-Man lore out of it and just focusing it as an Eddie Brock movie. Eddie Brock is down on his luck. He hates his life. Once this symbiote bonds with him, he becomes more powerful than he even could imagine, and uses that as a way to kind of go about his vengeance. Maybe he gets into a couple of fights as Venom. They create this sort of urban legend around him. But then you could either have him be in the same prison cell as Cletus Cassidy, maybe after doing time for something beforehand, and then has to meet up with him later, and that's how Carnage gets created. You need to remember, for this movie to work, we have to let this movie exist on its own. I don't want this movie to be bad, provided we get just this really great story about Eddie Brock going up against what is probably going to be Carnage, because the only way I think Carnage works is if you give him this R rating and you make him terrifying and you go full on crazy, scary with him to a John Doe or a Hannibal Lecter level. We're not going to have time to establish all this Spider-Man lore because they want this movie to come out next year. And why not just let this be the best movie that it can be? So my overall thoughts on this, I think Tom Hardy is a really great choice for Eddie Brock. He's got that kind of damaged psyche that I think could work very well. I mean, you just have to look at him in Bronson, and you can sort of see layers of Eddie Brock in there, like the vengeance and the darkness, and you can even give him a bit of a comedic style, like maybe a sort of a self-loathing kind of comedic nature to his character that could work. This movie could be very special. I really like Zombieland, so Ruben Fleischer being the director for this already gives me hope that they're going out for great talent, and that's about my thoughts on it. So what do you guys think? Do you think Tom Hardy is a great choice for Venom? Who do you guys want to see play Carnage, and what are you expecting from this movie? Please leave me a comment below, and thanks for watching this, and I will see you guys next time.